Hi everyone, it's Shar. Welcome back to my channel, Crafting Up a Storm. Today I am so excited to bring you some really great Cinco de Mayo projects. I loved being able to use a little bit brighter color palette after doing so many pastel colors for spring projects. It was great to get into those bright oranges and reds and yellows and greens. If you like these projects as much as I enjoyed making them, consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. Hopefully there's a project in here that you can recreate either for a get together, Cinco de Mayo party, or just some really bright home decor. Let's get crafting. For this project, I got these unfinished little porcelain statues from Dollar Tree. They're in the knickknack section shelf that's toward the front of the store. I thought they made really cute pinatas. At first, I thought it was a rooster and a llama, but I believe the other animal's a dog. I taped off sections. I had decided on the rooster I was going to do 4 sections. On the dog I did 5. And so I just put some tape down where I thought a good section would be. I didn't worry about it. I wasn't trying to measure anything. I got out some bright color acrylic paints. I believe I used a kind of coral red, an orange, a yellow, a little bit softer green, and a teal. After spring, having some of these bright colors was really kind of fun. For the rooster, I sectioned off my areas and I painted the ones that were not right next to each other so that I could wait for that to dry. I did those 3. I waited for that to dry and then I did the other 2. And in between I painted on the dog statue. For the back of the rooster, I didn't worry about the paint. I just used a thin, flat paintbrush to fill in the section matching the color of that section. I didn't worry about it being too precise. These came out really great. You can stop right here. I decided to take a Sharpie and accentuate the sections. So I just drew a line in between each section. I will say that the decorations on the side make it difficult for that to be a very straight line. You may want to try a smaller Sharpie or just leave the lines out altogether. I thought it added a really cute detail to it. You can Mod Podge it and be done, but I also added a little detail. I made it look like a tassel around the neck of each of them. I just used a thin Sharpie to draw a little circle and a little tassel hanging down around the neck, just for something extra. And then I put a layer of Mod Podge on it. I don't have footage for that, but that was it for these, and they came out so cute. To add some festive color on your table, I went to the store and I picked out a can of tomatoes that had this kind of old-fashioned looking print on it. I thought it was paper, so you will want to Mod Podge it if you want to save it. I cut a piece of styrofoam to go in the bottom, and then I got some really bright festive flowers from Dollar Tree. Gerber daisies, this fern. It did have a plastic part to it. I used these white wildflowers and then the yellow, I believe they're freesia. Just something bright. I put the ferns in the back. Added some of the big flowers first, and then filled in with some of the smaller flowers. Bent them down in the front so that I can put more and they wouldn't crowd. And I just really enjoyed the brightness of all these colors after a lot of pastels for fall. I ended up getting every bit of the flowers in there. I added some of the greenery that I had cut away from the wildflowers into the front. Very bright and cheery. For more table decorations, I did pick up these two small cans. They are a jalapeno sauce, and the label is actually printed on the can. But they're so bright and festive. I love the colors on them. And I just went through my succulent stash to find out which one I wanted to use for each of them, and I chose the dark green and the kind of mint green. I didn't like the little points on the leaves, so I did go through and round those off. I believe I did the same thing on the dark green one. I cut the stem on the succulent to fit in the can and just filled it with some styrofoam. You can put rocks in it too. The cans are pretty small, so you won't see much of the rocks. That's why I just use styrofoam, just to hold it in place. Very easy, but adds another festive touch. I found these styrofoam pieces at Dollar Tree. One's kind of a flat cone and the other is a flat disc. And I thought together they made a really great hat shape. So I'm going to use them for a sombrero shape. I glued the green cone on top of the white disc. To create the hat and the brim. Next, I decided to cover it with twine. I had a bit thicker twine in my stash. I believe I got it at Home Depot. It made it a little easier to use a thicker twine than to try and use the thin twine from Dollar Tree. You may even could use the nautical rope. That's even thicker. I just took my time, and it took time, but I wrapped it around, gluing every so often down to the styrofoam. And I just kept wrapping. Every so often I'd flatten it out with my silicone finger. At the top, I just continued to circle around until I got to the very end of the twine. I cut it and I tucked it into the very middle. I burned off any of the extra fibers. Making sure I had water close by. I took some more of the pom-poms that I had in the package from Dollar Tree and I glued them around the edge of the sombrero. I know that they also have some pom-pom ribbon that would be cute as well too. But I had the whole package of these bright colored pom-poms. I wanted to put a piece of felt at the bottom, so I used the disc as a guide and cut a piece at the bottom so that it wouldn't scratch any tables. I glued on half and then glued on the other half. I had this tassel sign from Dollar Tree that I had not used, and I thought the little cloud shape was a perfect shape for like a thought bubble or a sign. So I took the tassel off and I painted it moss green with Waverly chalk paint. I went around the edge with a darker green acrylic paint, not worrying about it being perfect, and just did an edge, and then I went around that with some black Sharpie with the lines and dots. I printed out Cinco de Mayo on my Cricut. The Cinco I did in different colors. I put that down at the top. After that was on, I took a Sharpie and I went back and I decorated the letters with some fun shapes and decorations you'll see in the final picture. I did take a small pink flower and glue it onto the space on the side. Here I'm decorating those letters. I guess I did have video of it. And I glued one of the flowers down. and I put the sign back onto, it had a hole in it from the tassel, so I just put it onto a skewer, cut the skewer down, and put that through the top of the hat. Fun. Napkin rings are a really easy way to add a pop of color and some festive detail to a potluck or get together. I got a package of clear shower curtain rings from Dollar Tree. They come in a pack of 12. I used 2 for each napkin ring, so I made 6. You don't have to use 2. You can just use 1 if you need more. I wanted to do a little bit of a detail, so I wrapped the twine down through the middle of the 2 and then up around one side and then down through the middle and up around the other side. So there was a little twist detail in the middle. I will say I put pom-poms on them, kind of covered that up a little bit, but I also didn't go completely around the entire shower ring with the twine. I just did maybe a half circle. I did make sure I started at the area that has the opening and closing for it so that that was covered up. Just put on a show and twist your twine through. I put a dot of glue at the start to hold the twine in place, and then I put a dot of glue at the end to hold the end in place. I burned off the fibers. It also adds a little bit of a detail to the twine. And then I had a package of pom-poms from Dollar Tree. Nice bright colors. It was fun to use bright colors after spring. I put 4 pom-poms on each. And those napkin rings are done. Easy but decorative. For another festive decoration, I picked up 2 of these paddle games from the toy section at Dollar Tree. It has a really pretty pattern on the back. I just wanted to cover up the front pattern. So I cut the rubber balls off of each of them, and I saved those for something else some other time. It was a little rough on the edges, so I did kind of go through with my emery board and smooth everything out. Painted them with a layer of moss green chalk paint. Then I went in with those same bright colors that I used on the pinatas, and I just did some decoration. I wasn't worrying about any specific pattern. I just wanted some stripes. I'm freehanding everything because I don't want it to be perfect. I did a zigzag. I was fine with them looking hand painted. I have a little dot tool. I think I have it for clay, but I used it to make larger green dots. Went in and made that a little bit thicker. Just adding random detail and definition. I did something different on each. Same colors, just a little different pattern. Here I just use my paintbrush for those dots. Now I'm going to take the Sharpie and I'm going to go around and add some detail. This was another reason I wasn't so worried about the lines being perfect. I'm going in with some random lines here and there. I don't want solid. I just want to kind of almost cartoony little outline to it, but just to add some detail. Helps it not look not need to be perfect. This is the second paddle that I had painted in the different decoration, but I did this detail with Sharpie on both of them. Once the detail was added, I wanted to take some twine. Oh, I'm going to show you detail on both, I guess. Same process, just some lines and dashes and dots. Just to give detail to those areas. You can see I have other colored Sharpies. I tried using different colors. Don't think I think I need new Sharpies, but the black gave the best result anyway. Gave a good contrast and some good detail. Now to add some extra detail onto the bottom, I just wrapped some twine around. I took a dot of glue at the beginning and then a dot of glue for the end. I had a piece left over from another project, so I used that at first, and then I added some more. I go all the way almost down to the edge of the end of the handle. Now I went in and made some very, very easy loose tissue paper flowers. I just took a stack of tissue, cut it into a kind of a funny shape, and then folded it to a fan shape, and then rounded out the edges. Stapled it in the center, and then pulled apart all the layers. I looked it up to find out how to make these, and you can look up much better videos than I'm showing you. I just kind of showed you a little of what I did for a couple of the tissue paper flowers. This one was a little small, so it was a little hard to pull open, but I didn't want a very large one on my decoration. You can make some really lovely bright colored large ones to decorate your table as well. I just pulled all the little layers apart And I didn't know how many I wanted to use. I thought maybe I'd use all 3. I don't think well, I guess I did use all 3 of them. And then I put a twine bow on it. For a last bit of decoration, I did pop a little bright orange into the middle just to add some color. I needed all this to be about color. I had one of the little chalkboard tags, the little clothespin tags, and I put FIESTA on it and glued it on there. You can put whatever you want to on there. You can also use the little clothespin to clip something, a menu or a recipe or something on it if you want. This decoration is very lightweight. You can hang it, just put some twine on the back, or you can set it up against something. You might be able to put a kickstand on the back. It just added some color. Fiesta. Going to use this cactus wood piece from Dollar Tree and this sign from Hobby Lobby to make a festive tray. It's a very substantial, kind of sturdy sign. I got it in the clearance section. It was regularly $13.99. I believe I paid $1.39 for it. I'm going to remove this block with a sawtooth hanger. I'm going to remove the clip and the paper on the top. Once I had the top layer of paper off, I put a good soaking of water on it, let it sit for a minute, and this backing paper came off. And it came off pretty easy. It took a while to scrape away, but it actually came off very easily. After I let the water kind of soak in, I could take the side of my tool and just scrape away the paper part. Once I had that scraped off, I could take a dry rag and wipe away the extra. And then it was fairly clean. I did wait till the wood was good and dry, and I ran over it with a sanding block just to make sure, because I'm going to paint it. I want it to be good and smooth. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have used 2 cactuses because this tray was pretty good and sturdy, but I did just use 1 in the middle. I wanted it to stand up a little taller so that the edge of this sign comes down, so I don't want it to cover up this cactus too much. So I want to add some height to the top of this cactus. Plus I need to build a platform to glue that to the bottom. I hot glued a towering block to each side of the top of the cactus. I'm trying to make it level. By the way, I failed making it level and I had to end up leveling it out later, but that's okay. I did try. Now I'm going to use some tape and just kind of block off the bottom of these blocks and then fill in between with wood glue. That's why I wasn't too worried about using hot glue. I wanted to go back and fill it in with wood glue. I let that dry for several days. Now I'm taking 2 sets of 3 of these blocks and I'm gluing them together. And then I will glue these sets one on top of the other, just making sure that the seam runs opposite for strength. I put a layer of wood glue and I'm going to clamp it so it's good and solid. Wipe away the excess and I will let that dry as well.
We're now painting the top of our sign that we cleaned off. I'm using Waverly chalk paint in plaster. I put a pretty thick coat on this first layer. I believe I went back with one more layer just to make sure it was good and covered once this dried. But you can tell it covered it pretty well, just this first layer. I painted the top and the sides, all with this plaster color. Set that aside and let it dry. Now I'm going to take my block platform and glue it to the top of that cactus with the blocks on it, just to add that height and add a platform to glue to the bottom of our tray. Now I want to add some color, so I took some acrylic paint in a soft green, kind of a coral pink, a little bit of a coral orange, a yellow, and a teal. And I used these erasers from Dollar Tree, and I wanted to kind of use them as a stamp. I thought just one mark on each side would work. However, I did have to kind of make the line a little longer, but I just used it as a stamp and I went through and added color. If you see my pattern on each side, I know I went out of order at some point on each side. I just kept going. As long as I didn't have two colors next to each other, I was okay with it. Two of the same colors next to each other. For an added detail, I took a thin black Sharpie and I added a little zigzag line in between each of those color marks. And then I decided to take a thicker Sharpie and add an edge. And of course I went off. I still didn't have it down on this side. I went off. I will fix that. No worries. I finally had it down by this side and I was okay. I went around each of the top edge, the sides, and the bottom edge. Just adding detail, it's completely unnecessary. I just wanted that definition. I will show you here, I went in with some of that Waverly chalk paint in plaster and I just put it over the top of that mark. I let that dry. I probably did 3 or 4 coats just because this is black Sharpie. And then I went back in with the color that was right there and I added the color back in and just corrected it. Very easy, you can't even tell. Now I am painting this cactus in Waverly chalk paint. I'm using moss green. I may have used the soft green acrylic paint, but I think I used the Waverly chalk paint because I wanted a good coat, a good cover. I am going to add an accent around the edge with this darker green. The wood sign is a little thicker, but I wanted that to show also from the front and the back, so I did kind of go in with my paintbrush and do a little edge around along the front and the back while edging the side as well. Nothing perfect. Now I'm going to take that same green color and add some slashes for the spines on the cactus. I'm not going in any pattern, just random slashes. I believe I also painted the bottom platform this green eventually too. Now to add some weight to the bottom so it wasn't top heavy, I added these flat rocks. I might have gotten them at Hobby Lobby. But you can use anything heavy to glue to the bottom. I used this like wood tray from Dollar Tree, glued that to the top of the blocks, and then I'm going to glue the cactus platform down to the top of this tray. The small platform. That just gave me some weight at the bottom. For the top, now I lost footage, but I made this little trough in the middle and I put the top of the cactus in it and I just filled it with hot glue. Just filled it with hot glue and wood glue to make sure that it stayed good and sturdy. For a little bonus, I thought I'd show you these pretty bright colored bowls I picked up at Dollar Tree. I had also picked up a large red plastic bowl I'm going to use for chips, and you'll see that bowl in some of the pictures. You can use these chalkboard clips from Dollar Tree, maybe clip it to the back of the bowl. You can see it a little better. But I decided just to cut some vinyl out on my Cricut. I cut out guac and salsa. I'm going to put the guac on the red bowl and the salsa on the green bowl. That way I will put green guacamole in the orange, not red, but orange bowl, and red salsa in the green bowl. Now these are not going to be dishwasher safe. So I will hand wash them, but they're cute for a little festive color on your table. I hope you enjoyed these festive projects. If you did, hit the like button below and consider subscribing to my channel. You will be informed of any upcoming crafty DIY videos. As always, keep crafting. Bye-bye.